Hey, church family. I just want to pick up right where I left off last Friday, talking about our vision for the church. Our vision for the church is quite simple. It's to build a thriving church where Jesus impacts people to transform their world. And we talked a little bit last week about this concept of to build a thriving church. And I want to go and kind of dive into the second part of this statement, which is where Jesus impacts people. Most people don't know this, because they've often asked us, where in the world did you get your name, or where'd you come up with your name for the church? Why Impact Church? Why didn't you call it Kingston West End Church? Why didn't you call it, Hillsong Church of Kingston, Ontario? No, people have asked us all kinds of crazy questions, but we'd love to kind of give a little bit of the background on the word impact and why it's important to us. When Sandra and I first got married, we had been asked by our pastors back at Oshawa Community Church to start leading the young adult ministry at the church. We were honored, we were humbled. And as we were processing through this ministry opportunity, and we started the ministry literally right after we got married, in that first year, we were desperately trying to seek out some sort of identity. And up to that point, we were just called the young adults. But we wanted some sort of identity. We wanted a word or a name that would really stick out. And we, on our first anniversary, we ended up traveling to Sydney, Australia, for the Hillsong Conference, which was awesome. What a highlight for our lives. And it was just amazing that we could do that kind of trip on our first anniversary. But when we got there, we were praying on the whole plane ride down, Lord, we want you to speak to us about this name. We believe that the name will have significance for this ministry. And when we got there, I'm going to save you the time, but just the only thing I will say is that everywhere we went, the name Impact kept jumping out at us. We got out of the airport and started following a car that had a personalized license plate that simply said Impact. And then we got on the highway, and there was a big, billboard sign on the side of the highway saying, do you want your life to be impacted? It was like that statement was everywhere. Then we get to the conference, and one of the themes of the conference that year was impact your world for Jesus. And we're like, okay, this is getting crazy. So we kind of came away from that going, okay, I think impact must be the name. And we had a great time with our young adults at OCC. And as we started to feel led and drawn to plant a church, and then Kingston started to kind of land in our hearts about as far as the location for this church, we approached Pastor Frank from OCC and said, would you mind if we kind of take the name Impact with us? Because we love the name and there's significance to this name. And he said, absolutely, go for it, it's yours. And so I want you to understand this name has significance for Sandra and I personally. It's not just a name to us. It's a culture. It is a philosophy. It is a set of values. It is a vision. It's a mission. It's so much more than that. And I want to read to you the dictionary definition of impact. It means this: a powerful effect that something has on a situation or a person. It is the force of impression of one thing or person onto another. And I believe with all of my heart that that's what God is calling us as a church to do, is to make that kind of impact, to have an impression on somebody else or on, and hopefully, this city. That's our heart's cry. But I want you to understand that out of that kind of draw towards the word impact, there was a tagline that we started to kind of marinate on, and the more we marinated on it, it became really, really clear that we had to connect this in the beginning of our church's existence very clearly to our name. And it was simply this tagline. It was make your mark, leave a legacy. We don't use it anymore. We kind of felt like coming into 2.0 that it wasn't necessary to have anymore, but we did feel like it was so essential in those first early years to really set the tone for who we are and what we're about. Make your mark and leave a legacy is ultimately we want every single person in our church to live out. And I love how Jesus ties in these thoughts beautifully in John chapter 15. In verse 16, he actually commands the disciples to go bear fruit. That's making your mark. And then he says right after that your fruit would remain. Well, that's leaving a legacy. And then he gives the key in verse 4 as to how that's going to happen. He says, abide in me. In other words, the only way you can truly make your mark and the only way you can truly leave a legacy is when Jesus is at the center of your life and that you are fully abiding in Jesus. That's why the middle part of our vision statement says where Jesus impacts people. Yes, can he use us? Absolutely. Does he want to use us? Absolutely. But if the only thing people are getting is us, then I think the change or the touch or the inspiration or the transformation is going to be very small and very temporary. But with Christ, the change can be transformative in nature. We're going to talk a little bit more about that next Friday. Listen, church, my heart's desire for everyone that calls Impact home is that you would allow Jesus to impact your life so that you can then impact others. Be blessed, church, and I'm excited to bring in the third part of our vision statement next Friday.